What can I do? And this is Dee, and it's Wednesday morning, and I welcome back into the studio two fine gentlemen who were last here, I guess, around a month ago, maybe slightly under a month ago. You've lost a bit of weight since you were last here because, of course, you've cycled 14 countries in 14 days. I've got Neil Fowler with me, who is one of the three people doing the cycling, and also Lawrence Holland. You're one of three people, I think, on the support team.
Yes, that's right.
So, I mean, I don't know where to start. You've had an amazing adventure, I guess, and probably, it's fair to say, the toughest of times.
Yes, definitely. As you said, we set off 2 weeks ago from Glasgow, and then it's been 14 days of cycling in the region of 120 miles a day through 14 countries, and finishing in northern Italy on Saturday, wasn't it? Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah. I know we spoke a couple of times to you whilst you were en route, as it were. What was the hardest part of this challenge that, let's face it, you guys set yourselves?
Yeah, I think the riding side of it, I think the three riders coped well. Without doubt, the hardest aspect for the three of us was the heat on the continent. For the first few days when we set off from Glasgow, yes, there was strong winds and there was rain, torrential rain in England in one day, but we'd ridden in those kind of conditions before, so yes, it was miserable in parts, but as I said, it was nothing new. But we'd never ridden in condition, heat of 40 degrees plus, which is what we were doing for 3 or 4 days on the continent. And
yeah, I mean, 40 degrees is too hot to lie out in, isn't it, for most of us?
Yeah.
And you were cycling 100+ miles a day through that heat on the continent.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't choose to book a holiday in those conditions, never mind riding your bike for 120 miles. And it was just a case of keeping hydrated. We were drinking, in excess 40-50 litres of water between us, and we were still losing weight. It was just, that aspect of it was horrible, but we just had to crack on with it and get it done.
So you started in Scotland on the 1st of June, and then you went through, let's see, the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales, England, and then over to the continent.
Yeah, so it was the best part. It was about 600 miles in the UK before we crossed onto the continent, and then we started in Holland, then through Belgium, Luxembourg, into France, crossed into Germany, spent 2 days cycling through Germany, down through the Black Forest and along the shores of Lake Constance, and then into Austria, Liechtenstein, Switzerland. Day 13 was Switzerland, and that was the day we did the Stelvio Pass. And then day 14 was through Italy to Lake Como and finished in the town of Magreglio.
So for people like me who've got absolutely no idea, how long does it take to cycle 100+, 120 miles?
Well, we were setting off, I guess, around 8:30 in the morning, and we were speeds-wise, we were probably doing, 17 miles an hour averaging. There was times when it was faster, times when it was particularly hilly. When we planned this, I didn't think for a second that...
You forget about the Alps.
Belgium would be as hilly as it was. Obviously, we had no idea of Luxembourg. That turned out to be mountainous.
Really? Because you imagine Belgium and Luxembourg to be quite flat countries, don't you?
And that's what we expected, but it was anything but. I mean, I think in total we've climbed well over 50,000 feet. And the hills we climbed in... I know we talk a lot about the Stelvio Pass being the iconic climb that we did, and it was. But in terms of difficulty, there was harder climbs we did in Belgium and Luxembourg, which were steeper and more painful. The thing with the Stelvio, yes, it was a very, very long climb, and it takes us up to what is the second highest alpine peak, but it's just a steady, continuous climb with a lower gradient, with a couple of ramps up, but as I said, harder stuff was done in the days before. I
suppose, did you just keep yourself going when you were going up with the thought that, hey, we're going to have to come down at some point?
Oh, yeah, and the Stelvio, I tell you, the descent down the Stelvio was fantastic. It's 20-odd kilometres worth of constant descending. We were doing speeds in excess, 50 miles an hour, and that was with brakes on at times. It was just, we had the roads to ourselves, pretty much. Michael, one of the lads that rode with us, Michael Banner, he had a kind of what he calls a GoPro camera attached to his helmet.
Yes, so you could pinpoint where he was.
Yeah, but he's taken the whole footage. He's recorded that descent off the Stelvio Pass. So it went from the top of the Stelvio Pass down into the town of Bormio in northern Italy. He's got it all on YouTube, which he's going to upload on the internet the next day or so.
Okay, so that's worth looking out for
Yeah,
on the
definitely,
14
yeah.
14 14 Cycle Challenge Facebook page.
That's right, yeah.
Of course, you did it for the charity Reverse Rett because your daughter Neil, Ciara, suffers from Rett syndrome.
She does, yeah.
And this is what the whole thing was about. And we'll come back in a minute and we'll talk about the money that you've raised, and we'll bring Lawrence in as well, and the sterling job he did on the support group. And we'll just talk a little bit more about this amazing challenge, cycling 14 countries in 14 days. That's the new song from Ellie Goulding, and it's called Beating Heart, and you're hearing it on D, and we're talking about the 14-14-14 Cycle Challenge. We spoke about it first a month or so ago. It's happened now, 14 countries in 14 days, 3 cyclists doing that incredible challenge, and 3 people on the support group, one of which is Lawrence Holland, who's here as well. And I know we spoke before you went out, Lawrence, and what was the most important part of the job of the support group? Because you were following behind or in front, but you weren't. You had a tough time as well, didn't you?
Well, I mean, obviously it was tough for the lads on the bikes, but one of the toughest things is what we didn't think about was there's 3 blokes sitting in the front of a van in a very small confined space
in temperatures of 40 degrees.
100-degree heat, and you're kind of not wearing many clothes because you're sweating, and at times it becomes kind of a bit unbearable, you know what I mean?
Nice, we got this great image in our heads now.
Yeah, it wasn't particularly
Maybe
nice,
not great.
But the most important thing was to keep the lads hydrated, keeping them fed. That's one of the biggest things. Certainly, they say an army marches on its stomach. Well, Team Ciara marches on its stomach as well. So it's keeping them, giving them a nice dinner. It was a bit hit and miss a couple of days just for timing and stuff, but there was some particularly nice times, some nice places where we had lunch as well. One day in a forest. One that particularly sticks out in my mind was in the Ogwen Valley in Wales. It was just this beautiful view, and we were just there. The cyclists came in, they had the lunch, and it was fabulous, I'm just making it sound all glamorous now, aren't I? But it wasn't.
I guess time was of the essence, was it? It was a case of eating because you needed to, and then the guys getting back on their bikes and carrying on because you had a lot of miles to do every day and deadlines to meet.
Yeah. But the thing is if you could time the lunch right, it was at that point where the riders are starving hungry, and if they had a good dinner, and they kind of give them the energy to carry on, and I mean, sometimes I don't know how they actually got back on the bikes because it was bad enough getting back in that sweaty van. Never mind them getting back on the bikes and riding, say, another 60 or 70 miles. It was incredible to see that, really.
I suppose psychologically, the thought of the next meal or the bed might have kept them going. The bed at the end of the day, the next meal, and also the thought that after that 60 or 70 miles, you're just that bit closer to the finish.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it was when you're in the van and everything, you're thinking, are we there yet? Are we there yet? You know what I mean? And it was quite funny because the rider say, how many miles have we got? And one of the other support crew would say, don't tell them.
I suppose planning was essential. You guys, this is something we've not really spoke about in much detail, but months and months of effort in planning the route, booking overnight accommodation. There's so much to think about.
Well, I never really had much to do with the accommodation. My main thing was to sort out the support van and getting that kind of ready to make it a usable vehicle, which putting things in it and making where we could store stuff, because there's that much stuff we have to take with us. And the van worked really, really well. Unfortunately, now I've got to strip it all, and it's going back today. So that's what I've been doing this morning. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning trying to get the van sorted out.
These are the unglamorous parts of the job.
They are. This is it. All I can say is I'm glad it's radio, not TV, because I look like Grizzly Adams because I've got a big beard.
You look certainly a lot more tanned than you did a month ago, Lawrence. That's got to be to do with the continental heat, I guess.
Well, maybe.
Is there anything, if you were to do it again, that you would do differently?
I'm sure there is a few things I'd do differently. I mean, I thought I was going into this with my eyes wide open, and I realised that it was a lot more tougher than I thought it was going to be mentally for me. I found it, we had moments, but I think it was just the heat got to us all, really, and I think that's what I wasn't prepared for. In my mind, I always thought it's going to rain, it's going to be horrible, and then I think when this intense heat came, I think it was trying to adjust to that, really, and because you're on, even though you're driving a van or you're cooking it, you're on the go all the time, and it's kind of what I wasn't particularly involved with this, but certainly Peter and Colin did a sterling job with the navigation and stuff like that, because it's trying to keep the lads on the bikes on the right track. And we made plenty of mistakes, don't get me wrong, but you see, in that kind of heat, if you send somebody up the wrong road and they do say 3 miles up one road and then you say, actually we're on the wrong road, somebody's got to shout out the window, you've got to turn around and go the other way, and it's
that's a massive psychological negative, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's one of them. It's one of the worst things, really, and it's kind of, like I said, there was plenty of times where I made plenty of mistakes, but I think the mistakes outweigh the good things that we did.
Hey, you got there in the end. You all made it to the finishing point, didn't you? And
Yeah.
was it the mental challenge that was bigger than the physical challenge, Neil, for you guys on the bikes?
I think so, yeah. And it was the same last year when Sean and I rode to Rome. You get yourself to a certain level of fitness, and the physical side of the riding is okay. It's fine. I mean, this time around, I had no injuries whatsoever. Sean had a little bit of an issue with his knee to begin with, but that went away. Michael had some problems with his Achilles. But these things are to be expected, and they didn't complain about them. They carried on, and Michael's issues went away also. So,
was there ever a point where you even considered giving up?
No chance.
Never.
No.
None of you.
No, because there's long points in the day. I mean, Lawrence has touched on the fact that they're confined to a small van with 3 guys wedged next to each other. Slightly different for us on the bikes, because if we're on the bike for 6-7 hours a day, there's periods of that time when we're in single file, and there's a fair bit of distance between the 3 of us, so I often would go into my old world, my own thoughts, always thinking about Ciara and why we're doing it, and it was always in the back of my mind that with every kind of pedal stroke, if you like, I'm getting further and further from her. And it's always in my mind that, what would happen if she was taken ill, because leading up to the challenge, there was a number of occasions when she was admitted into hospital, so that was always on my mind. What would I do if I got a call from my wife saying that she'd gone back into hospital? Would I have to go back? It was just a constant worry. So, and just thinking about what Ciara and other girls go through on a day-to-day basis, there was no way on earth that we were ever going to stop. I couldn't come home. And say to Ciara, I couldn't finish it because my legs were sore.
I thought you might say that. I thought that might be your answer to that question. Talking about the fundraising, of course, you're still accepting donations now for the charity Reverse Rett, and we'll come back in just a moment and we'll find out how people can donate.
Traffic and Travel with Fords of Winsford. No need to travel from dealer to dealer for your next car. Traffic and Travel with Fords of Winsford. No need to travel from dealer to dealer for your next car. Take the stress-free journey to 1,500 cars. Visit fow.co.uk.
So, Neil, I know every day you were getting emails, you and the support guys were getting emails telling you that further donations have been made, and there was a little bit of a rejoicing moment when you went over the £20,000 mark.
That's right, yeah.
And what are we up to now, could I ask?
It's now just short of 26,500.
So that's £26,500 for the charity Reverse Rett. That's right. An amazing achievement by 3 guys on a bike and 3 sweaty men in a van. I mean, it really is. That's absolutely awesome. But of course, if people have been listening to your progress over the last few weeks and haven't donated yet, they can do, can't they? It's not too late.
No, not at all. I think the Just Giving site will still be open for a couple of months yet, and there's still donations coming in daily now. So
okay, so that's justgiving.com/Team Ciara 141414.
Yeah.
And Ciara is spelt Ciara 14-14-14. You must have created between the 6 of you, some amazing memories. What will you take with you from this, do you think, that will last the longest?
I think the standout highlight for me is obviously the finish, seeing my family at the end.
Yeah, tell us about the end, because it was in Italy, wasn't it?
It was in Italy. Yeah, the final day was from a town just outside a place called Sondrio, and it was 70-odd miles towards Lake Como, around the perimeter of a section of the lake, up to the town of Bellagio. And then once we arrived at Bellagio, we then turned inland to climb up a hill towards a hilltop town called Magreglio. And the reason we picked that is that there's a small chapel or church at the top called the Madonna del Gisarlo, and she is the patron saint of cyclists.
Perfect place to end.
Exactly. So, and at the top, it was probably about a 15-kilometre climb, just short of 15-kilometre climb, which again, like the Stelvio, would built up to be something that turned out to be not as difficult as we thought it was going to be. Probably because we spent 2 weeks, on the bike.
And that was the end stretch, wasn't it?
That was the end stretch, and I knew my family were at the top, so we just went at a steady pace, and, we came around the final corner, up the final incline, and then my son jumped out from behind a bush.
Wow.
And was running alongside us the last few metres, and obviously we met by Ciara.
That must have been massively emotional for all of you.
It was, yeah. As soon as I saw Ciara, and I went over to her and I said to her, this is all for you, I started crying. I don't know whether she understands what I'm saying. I hope she does, but it was fantastic to see. Not just my family. There was the partners, Sean's partner, Michael's partner. It was just fantastic. But leading up to that point, there was other highlights. I mean, we left the UK in Harwich, and the welcome we had from them was incredible.
Yeah, we spoke on the phone the day that you were going to arrive in Harwich, and I think the mayor of Harwich was laying on a civic reception for you guys.
That's right. Yeah, we were met at the port, just outside the port, by some local councillors. They escorted us to the port. The van was left secure. We were then chauffeured to a local leisure centre where we could shower and change. Then chauffeured to the town's guild hall, where we were met by the local mayor, the lady mayoress, and other local dignitaries. We spent probably the best part of an hour with them there, and then we were taken up to a local pub, and where there was a fine spread lay on for us, and we got to mingle with the locals, and plenty of people, patted us on the back and gave us, made donations. It was just a fantastic reception that they didn't have to do, but they just went.
How did they hear about you?
I think it was Michael. I think Michael Banner's mother has a friend who lives in Harwich, and it's basically through her. Exactly how that then transpired into the mayor greeting us, I don't know, to be honest. But they just treated us, I suppose, like celebrities.
And there must have been something quite important, events like that along the way that just give you a little bit of a lift.
Because that was after the day of riding through torrential rain. And to have that welcome and to have that appreciation was just something we're very, very grateful for and appreciative of.
What are you guys doing next, then?
Next, challenge-wise, ask me again in a month or so. They'll say. I mean, when I finished the ride last year to Rome, I didn't touch my bike again for at least a month.
We can understand that.
But there'll certainly be something else, because, as I said, this challenge was set 10 months ago, and with all the preparation and training, etc., and doing the ride, from a personal point of view, that's when I feel as I'm really doing something to help Ciara and other girls like her. It's over now. We've done it. It's already in the part of our history now, even though we only finished it 2 days ago.
You'll hatch something else over a few beers. I know you will. I just know you will. Well, it's been great to talk to you before, during, and now after this incredible challenge. 14 countries in 14 days. Just to remind you, if you'd like to donate to the charity Reverse Rett in Ciara's name, it's justgiving.com/Team Ciara 14-14-14. Neil and Lawrence, thank you very much for coming in and telling us all about it. I know some of you guys have already gone back to work, and the rest of you back tomorrow, and need to let you get back to sorting the van out so you can take that back. And of course, we mustn't forget that you've just driven all the way back from Italy over the last 48 hours as well.
Yeah. 2 days of driving, so I arrived last night.
It's all behind you now. Well
done.
done, absolutely brilliant on what you guys have all achieved.
Okay, thank you very much
in
for
Ciara's
your
name.
time. Thank you.
So that's Neil Fowler and Lawrence Holland from the incredible Team Ciara.
The Breakfast Show. The new Nissan Juke 1.6 N-Tech could be yours from just $199 a month with a deposit of just $999.